Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking it out to a Friday night matchup, Big Ten West, as Nebraska heads on the road to play Illinois. Dill, two teams that not off to the most desirable starts to the season, but an opportunity for both programs to get back to 500, to kind of put yourselves back in that Big Ten West race. Excited to get into this one. Now, before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support from all of you, especially the Big Ten fans, Nebraska fans. We've talked so much Nebraska, Big Ten football. The support from you guys truly does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Almost 10,000 subscribers. That's an insane number. Thanks to you guys. And more importantly, let us know in the comment section your guys' picks, predictions for this game. That's the best part about doing it, talking ball with you guys. Dill, going to kick this one over to you, Nebraska. Heading on the road to play Illinois. How are we feeling here?
I mean, to me, the biggest thing is this is about Illinois trying to get the train back on the tracks. And coming into this season, I think, especially me, I was so high on what this Illinois could be.
Your pick to win the Big Ten West.
100%. I'd stand. Given what they had coming back on both sides of the line of scrimmage and how good I thought they could be in getting a guy like Luke Altmaier in as a transfer, who, again, you wouldn't necessarily miss a beat, if you will, at that quarterback spot. Obviously hasn't really shaken out that way. But again, you look at the positives for Illinois, the Big Ten West is still open. And yes, They did lose to Purdue, but if you ask me, I don't think that Purdue team is going to go run the table or go win out. So I think that window's still open. And again, I still think they have the team to be very competitive in the Big Ten West, especially given that the side's a little weak this year.
Yeah, so my biggest takeaway, we'll start on the Illinois offense going up against the Nebraska defense. That say what you want about this Nebraska team. That defense, the Blackshirts, they have been absolutely dominant under Tony White. When I watch these Illinois games back, when I go and look at the numbers, my biggest concern is, and part of the reason why you picked them to win the Big Ten West, I was high on them as well, is, I thought they were going to be elite along the line of scrimmages, right? You have a lot of new coaches in this conference. You got a lot of new quarterbacks in this conference, especially this side. What you could trust with Illinois is having a really good offensive line and a really good run game. And quite frankly, it just hasn't quite been that. They're only averaging 4.3 yards per carry. That's outside of the top 50 for a team that kind of their identity that Brett Bielema has built is in the trenches, being physical. And this Illinois offense just hasn't quite been there yet this season.
Yeah. And in fairness, I think we talk about the Illinois offensive line and it's kind of getting criticized as it should. They're definitely not playing great football, but I do think we also fail to recognize how big of a loss Chase Brown was.
Yeah, that's on me.
I think everybody kind of thinks oh, you just need a good line and you can stick me back there and I'll run the football for 1,000 yards or whatever. That's just it's not the case. You need a good running back, and right now that position is just not playing up to that standard set by what Chase Brown did last year when he was so dynamic and took so many carries. And again, just shouldered a lot of the load of that offense. And right now, you just don't have a running back to me who's that number one guy who you can just give it to and let him go to work.
100%, I was wrong on that. That was my take heading into the season, was basically, hey, you lose Chase Brown. I love Chase Brown. If you guys listen to the NFL draft stuff, Chase Brown was high on my board. But I kind of said, this offensive line, this running game is not going to skip a beat because this offensive line is legit really, really good. I think you're right. You watch Reggie Love, you watch Josh McCray, tote to rock. That's not Chase Brown. It's not how explosive he is. It's not the vision. It's not the contact balance. So that's been a problem. And Dill, that's probably the biggest storyline in this game is, can they get that run game going against a Nebraska team that, a lot of things that you can talk about negatives about this Nebraska team, stopping the run, that defensive line, that front seven is not one of them. They've been very good. Top 10 in the country, only allowing 2.9 yards per carry to opposing running backs.
And that'll be interesting. I think we've seen in the past, frankly, with Brett Bielema having teams get off to slower starts and him really challenging them, especially up front. I remember that speech he gave about saying, there's not one kid on this offensive line I would take. And frankly, he kind of closed out the year pretty decent. So I'm wondering, does Brett Bielema have a trick up his sleeve to, again, just get a unit that is so talented? Guys Julian Pearl's a legit
NFL dude
player. He's that good. I think Chrysler's very they have the guys. Isaiah Thomas, I think they have guys who can play. It's just it's got to get going at some point. No better time now than against a very good Nebraska team. Because I guess on the other side of that, I wonder how they're going to be able to attack this team in the air, which they've been okay. I mean, Altmaier's put some yards up for sure, but they are very one-dimensional in terms of very reliant on Isaiah
Yeah,
Williams.
that's in my notepad. Like I actually like Luke Altmaier. Yes, he's turned the ball over a little bit, but he's made some really good throws. They're just, to me, really relying on Isaiah Williams, 450 yards through the air. The next closest is Pat Brown at 150. Like when they want to hit an explosive play through the air, they are going to Isaiah Williams. And that's my take, is like Isaiah Williams should be getting all those touches, but you need some other guys, Casey Washington, Pat Bryant, to also step up, because you look at this Nebraska secondary, that's also a really loaded group that's playing good football. For me, looking at this, if Illinois...
And they're not giving up big plays, which frankly, like Illinois has been a little bit... I mean, they've relied on kind of chunking teams up a little bit. They're just not driving the ball consistently enough, so they have relied on Isaiah Williams getting a little loose, either whether that's getting the ball early and using his feet to go make plays or catching it down the field. And so that will be the... I think they need to get this running game going. I just don't see how they can attack this Nebraska team effectively enough unless they can establish some semblance of the run game that maybe we saw last year.
100%. And this is something we've talked about a lot with Nebraska. If they win on first and second down, that 3-3-5 defense gives you a lot of different looks, a lot of different blitz packages and coverage packages. And if you had why has Illinois struggled in pass pro? It hasn't necessarily been like the talent. Like you just can't win your one-on-one matchups. It's like the stunts and the different blitzes and picking up those blitzes. That's what they've struggled with. And Tony White, Nebraska, like doing a really good job disguising and giving different looks. So Nebraska can win on first and second down. It could be a long night for Illinois. And again, Luke Altmaier has been loose with the ball when facing pressure.
And they also need to stop giving up penalties. Like that's, I mean, as much as like the play on the field maybe hasn't quite cut it, they are taking a ton of penalties on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball for that matter. So
every time I look on this, it's like Illinois is like 1st and 20, like 2nd and 50. Like they're just getting behind the sticks.
And that makes it so hard to establish that run game too. So it's like, again, it's a confluence of issues, penalties. I think a little bit of a not enough good play, if you will. Yeah. But also, like, again, they got to play a clean football game. And that's been Nebraska's problem too. So you might just see like a bit of a slot fest, but I don't know. I mean, I think Illinois, I think they still have the players on offense to do something a little better than what they are. They just need to clean it up.
All right, speaking of this is gonna all right. Nebraska offense versus the Illinois defense. My biggest concern with Nebraska, and it's still the same concern that you had throughout the first couple games, like pass protection has not been great. Henry Carberg, Jeff Sims, whoever it is back there has been getting just not really. It's just, I mean, 1, you don't have the wide receivers really. 2, you can't really protect the quarterback. Now, Illinois has some guys up front. Johnny Newton, Randolph. Like, they have some guys that can get to the quarterback. And
Dave Yakas, he's incredible. Like, again, like you talk, this team's got pros across both sides of the line of scrimmage. It's just like you got to put it together and start going to work.
No, but yeah, that's the problem. You look at the numbers, you look at the games. I mean, they're getting up 4.6 yards per carry. That's 94th in the country. They're only sacking the quarterback 3% of the time. That's 113. So it's like they got the guys, they got to put it together, and they have a chance against the Nebraska offense that, I mean, is pretty one-dimensional so far. They want to run the football, and I guess like the same story you have with this Illinois offense going up against the Nebraska defense is the same thing you're talking about here. Can Nebraska establish the run, stay out of 3rd and long? Because if you don't, guys like Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph are going to get after whoever's playing quarterback for Nebraska.
And we've been talking about this for Nebraska's offense the whole time. Honestly, where do you see Illinois really get beaten up badly is when they make those linebackers go sideline to sideline, because that unit just hasn't played good enough football. And you saw like how easily Kansas was cutting through them using that perimeter run and getting the ball out quickly to the outside. Like that speed option this Nebraska team kind of wants to get going and some swing passes and end arounds. You gotta use it today, because now it's really a good matchup, frankly, for you, because I don't think they're gonna run the ball in the middle against this Illinois team. That unit, again, is it playing as good as we thought it would? No, but it's still very good in the middle. I think where you got to get to this Illinois team is go on the perimeter. Again, lost a ton of pros in the secondary from last year. The linebacking play I don't think's been good enough. That's the only place I think Nebraska will beat them, because this Illinois defense line is still going to kind of overpower, I think, Nebraska up front.
Yeah, no, I'm actually 100%. I thought immediately when you said like, yeah, the Illinois linebacker play hasn't been great. Like that speed option, that's like kind of exactly what this Illinois team struggles with. Like teams attacking the perimeter, and I'd also like kind of double down on that and say, like, get Billy Kemp loose in the flat. Like get some of your playmakers in space, and if you can do that, like you gotta like their chances. At the end of the day, both of these offenses have struggled to find an identity, right? Illinois just struggling to kind of play that bully ball that they wanted to. Nebraska, I mean, just trying to like piece this thing together, right? Finding something that works. You're down a couple quarterbacks, you're down a couple guys in the wide receiver room, down a ton of guys in the running back room. What offense can manufacture enough explosive plays to put points on the board? I think wins this game. The last thing I want to say, turnovers. Both of these teams have been brutal turning the ball over. So you take a look at like the over-under, it's at 44 points. Like you might go over because you might get some defensive scores because both these teams love to turn the ball over. Dill, I want to get to the pick here. Illinois 3-point favorites at home. Who are you riding with?
I think I'm going to give a slight lean to Nebraska just because I think, frankly, Harburg is kind of coming around a little bit. He's not turning the football over. You saw him make some pretty nice throws, and you saw some guys emerge. Fedone looks like he's coming along. You got guys making, again, Washington making some plays.
Josh Fleeks, get him a couple more touches out of the backfield.
Yeah, so I just like, I think Nebraska's come along a little bit. I wish they played another team, not Michigan, because Michigan smothered them a little bit, but Michigan, I mean, they're that team. It's like they're really good. I just like where Nebraska's going. I think Harburg has steadied this offense a little bit, so it's not as turnover prone and as mistake prone as Jeff Sims kind of had it going. So I'll go Nebraska, but I don't love how like picking this game.
Oh, you mean you don't love picking Nebraska here? You don't love picking Nebraska?
I don't think you can love either of these teams because, again, they haven't seen enough consistently from either of them. So it does feel like a bit rolling the dice.
Yeah, I'm with Nebraska too. You know, I'm riding with the high, and it's, I think there's a minor overreaction to like getting trounced by Michigan. That's that Michigan team, for like as a Michigan fan, that was the best football we played all year by far. Like you got Michigan's best go. They played pretty much perfect on both sides of the football. If Michigan did that, we kind of knew the score would be like that. Nebraska's still building. I think this is a team where you can see them get better as the season goes on. Give me Nebraska here in kind of a must-win spot for Matt Rhule and the Cornhuskers. Put some chips
in for everyone, though.
Yeah, backs against the wall for both these teams.
These are just two-stage Tigers. There's nowhere for these two to go.
Yeah, 2-3, both of them. 3-3 sounds a hell of a lot better than 2-4 for both of these teams. Massive one Friday night. Appreciate you guys for rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Whether you agree, whether you disagree, let us know in the comments section who you guys are riding with. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.